Hala.
Hala is not there. Ah, you should tell
Let me
her
call
to
her. Let me
come.
call her. Let me call her. Okay.
Yes, yes, I will wait. Okay, you call Hala and then we start the class. Okay, because she probably trying to access to the exam, and it is of course on 15. I registered. I suppose it was today
It's it's how many questions? It's going to be how many questions?
for the exam.
Yes.
I think 20 some, not too much, or
20, yeah?
25. 20, 25. It is a multiple choice because
Yeah, 20.
uh,
20 is good.
Okay, it's okay. It's good.
okay.
20
Okay,
is
it's
good.
good.
Oh, it's all
20
20.
is good.
multiple
20
choice.
is good.
Yes, yes, it's multiple choice. Of
What?
course, it is some calculation, maybe some little estimations, but no calculation for this midterm. Maybe in
Midterm.
the final. In the
Okay.
Prof,
final, there will be calculations. Okay,
Okay, sir.
Prof, 20,
Okay, Prof.
20,
Okay,
20
Prof.
questions is okay.
Yes,
20
okay.
or 25. I don't know exactly. It's about 20, 25. I don't remember how much was it, how many questions I put in.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Prof. Okay.
So, Prof,
Okay.
uh, how many questions? Sorry, what are the guidelines for the exam midterm?
I, I put mostly the theoretical part because you exercise mostly the theory, isn't it? There
Yes.
will
Yes.
be some theory. This is, of course, the first part that you desired. And then I will put some 30 points for your exam. Is that okay for you?
Some 30 points.
Yes, for the exam and to 20 points for your homework or assignments because you don't want project. Your
Okay.
assignment that I will give you one more assignment after the midterm, then you will do it, and then
That's
we
50
will.
marks.
Yes, it makes 50 out of 50, or maybe 60. I don't know why it is depending to you. And then some 50% for you is Hala is online is attended.
She has joined. She has joined now. Yes.
Okay.
I'm here,
As I
Doctor.
said, thank you. Next week we are doing then the exam. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. The PowerPoints is available. I think you are seeing these PowerPoints. As I said to you, I'm going to give you today this hex all in together with these comparative advantages. As you know, hex all in concentrated on the factor endowments and comparative advantages based on the relative lower cost advantages, and we are going to combine this all together to see how it is affecting and changing in the, of course, application, in the, of course, some equations, in some mathematical estimations, because up to now we are exercising the theory, and I will give you some information about the application. As you know, the factor endowment theory assesses the immediate basis for the trade, which is the difference between the pre-trade relative product price and the trading nations, which is very important in the economics to see the differences between the countries, the factor endowments, which is affecting and enlarging the economical aspect of the international trade. And from this aspect, we are concentrating this estimation by using some equations. Of course, the prices, which is dependent to these production possibility curves, as you know, the production possibility curve is the, of course, country's performance, or the country's profile to see what are they producing and how they are producing and how much is the production in this country, and what factors, and of course production factors is affecting and increasing the capacity of the production possibility in, of course, direction of this abundance of the relative cost advantages. And as I have uploaded here, the factor abundance is becoming very important in this direction. And here I have illustrated the hypothetical resource endowments in the United States and China. And we are using, of course, here the aircraft and the textile industries which is of course very competitive when we are concentrating. And the United States is supposed to be capital labor ratio is becoming to 5, or so-called 100 machines to 200 workers, which is around zero point 0.5. This is then of course the capital labor ratio, and because we are using this hexaolin, either is it capital uh, I mean, capital intensive or labor intensive. And from this direction, there is, of course, ratio zero point 0.5. And when we are looking to the China, this is then, of course, ratio is becoming 0.05, which is 20 machines and 1,000 workers. As you know, China is very popular with the, of course, lower wages and, of course, the worker force. They are very heavily using their labor intensive production operation process, which is very important in the, of course, creating advantages in the international market. And from this direction, we are, of course, understanding that the China's capital labor ratio is 0.05 and the US ratio is zero point 0.5. And since this is, of course, the outcome of this given scenario, which is supposed to be a model, then we are understanding the US capital labor ratio exceeds the China's capital labor ratio. And of course, we call the United States the relatively capital abundant or capital intensive producer or country. And China is, of course, the relatively capital scarcity or the capital lower intensive or less intensive or labor intensive country. So called is labor intensive because it is very expensive. If something is expensive in a country, then we are assuming that there are, of course, capacity or lower technology usage in this direction. And conversely, and China is called this relativity or relative labor abundance factor, which is based on the labor force or labor intensive. Then we are assuming this is then, of course, scarcity in this country. And of course, United States becomes labor capital intensive in this direction. On this figure, we are illustrating the graphical illustration, and it is of course showing the production possibility frontiers of the United States, which we have already illustrated and of course explained you in the former classes, and the of course on of course indicating and illustrating the capital abundancy of this country. And the China is assumed to be the relatively labor abundant or producer or country. And the figure also assumes the aircraft are relatively capital intensive, which is of course expected in the production process is of course based on the capital intensive production operation process, and textile industry in the China is supposed to be labor intensive, and of course labor becomes the dominant factor in the operation process. As you are observing on this graphic, we have illustrated the positions of the autarky and of course post-trade equilibrium between this country. When you look to this graphical illustration, you are understanding China is becoming textile industry dominant because they have excessively over surplus or more production in the textile industry. You are seeing this graphic. You see these figures. Do you see this? I think you are seeing. Do you see? Anyway, I suppose you see. And the aircraft industry, because we have two graphical illustrations. One is dominated for the textile in the China, and one is going to be, of course, dominated for the aircraft industry for the United States. And when we are looking to this margin for China, it is becoming to the fourth because of this labor intensity. And of course, when we are looking to this marginal rate of transformation for the United States, also called the American producers in the aircraft industry, it is becoming 0.33. This is for the autarky, where there is no trade. They are producing and of course consuming in their country. They don't have any trade relations in autarky position. After the trade or called the post realize, so-called international trade transactions realize, the trade relation is changing here. And as you see here, the textile industry in China is becoming a little bit more enlarged and increased to the from B to C, and of course for the uh, United States, it is moving from B to C. You have any question?
Prof, yes.
Because you are.
As he said, you please accept her. As
I see. Okay.
Yeah, Ash is trying to.
Okay. Come on.
Okay, sir.
I did it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And as I said to you, from this graphic that we are illustrating, it is supposed that the autarky for the both countries have the same demand for the textile and aircraft. The result in both countries producing and consuming at point A in the figure first on the left side. And at this point, the absolute slope of the line tangent to the United States production, as it is illustrated on the graphic you are seeing, this is totally intersect to the each country's production operation process, because it is supposed to be on the Chinese production possibility frontier. It is tangent at point A, and on the, of course, United States production possibility frontier, it is also tangent at point A, because they have casually or randomly or not deliberately selecting this production capacity, but you are observing the production possibility frontiers become tangent for the both countries curves, and of course this budget line or budget constraint, and the results of this, they have the similar production on this direction, where they have 6 unit of textile in the China so-called, and 6 unit also for the United States for the textile, and vice versa similarly realized for the United States. This means they in production operation process where they are having producing and consuming. But as you see, when we are observing this production possibility frontiers, the equilibrium point is unfortunately not covering the whole production. It is not covering, because in China there are some surplus, which is indicating that almost the whole aircraft industry is already consuming in internal market, and for the United States, similarly, all textile industry is produced and of course consumed internally. But beside of this, when we are looking to this autarky equilibrium and of course the production possibility frontier of these curves, we are understanding textile industry is becoming surplus or so-called overproduction, because they are consuming only 6 unit or 6,000 or 6 million unit of textile in domestic market, and more of this produced and of course become surplus position in textile industry in the China. And when we are looking to the aircraft industry for the United States, we are understanding there are also surplus for this industry, because they have only 7 unit or 7,000, 7 million unit of aircraft industry produced and consumed internally. But more than this, they are surplus, and they have this production in their country, and they should be excluded or they should be exported towards to the other nations, maybe to China, because in China almost the aircraft industry production is fully used in this domestic market, and probably they have some more spaces for covering this need regarding to this factor endowment theory, because since the factor endowment theory suggesting countries with abundant factor or endowments, factor endowments is the, of course, enlarged production operation process in this direction realized for the China, and for the aircraft industry for the United States. This should be bilaterally realized. Trade relations should be exported and imported for reducing the surplus in the market. Otherwise, we have some problem in these industries because they are not able to enlarge anymore, since the capacity of this industry's production is of course realized at point A. This means that this international relations must be realized for enlarging and increasing this capacity, as it is illustrated on the post-trade curve on the left side. And as you are observing, when we are moving to this post-trade position, the post-trade realize and increase the specialization in the direction of the United States, where it is reaching to the point B, and of course for the China reaches to the point B, where the points at which each country's production possibility considers production possibility frontiers or curves becomes tangent with the let's say budget constraint, I mean the country's budget constraint or budget line, to the common relative price line that is assumed to have an absolute slope of 1. As you are observing in this curve, both countries' production capacity after the post-trade is enlarged towards to the textile industry in China and towards to the aircraft industry in the United States, or so-called in America, because they have considerable amount of production in the aircraft industry, and of course in the China there is sufficient production, since the production curve is more vertical in China and production possibility frontier or curve is more horizontal, or of course approaching towards the x-axis. Mostly for the United States, we are understanding the United States are becoming more aircraft industry production in the, of course, international trade relations should be excluded and of course exported. And when we are observing, since this country's production capacity increased from 7 to 13, sorry, from 6 to 13, and for the United States bilaterally increased from 7 to 15, we are understanding this is of course sufficiently realized for increasing and enlarging the vice versa bilateral trade relations between these two countries. And as you are observing, after these trade relations and of course capacity increase between these countries, the international trade relations realize at point C, where the United States increasing the capacity and of course of their trade and their production from 7 to 9, and of course the China increase it from 6 to 7 as an internal domestic production and consumption, but rest of the amount which is increased to 13 is supposed to be distributed towards to the United States as an exportation or exportable goods. And when we are looking to the aircraft industry, after the domestic market enlarged from 7 to 9, which is increasing the spaces for absorbing the international trade relations and of course importable goods, they are exportable capacity from 9 to 15, and again it is 6 unit or 6,000 or 6 million of aircraft is expected to be exported to the China. Therefore, bilateral trade relations now realized on the one side. When you are looking to this curve, you are understanding free trade or post-trade relations increasing the capacity for the China from 6 to 7 for the internal market and the consumption, and for the China, for the United States increasing for 7 to 9 as a internal domestic consumption. And this will of course enlarging and increasing the capacity for international exportable goods from 9 to 15, and of course for the China similarly from 7 to 13, 6 unit or 6,000, 6 million again exportable units will be enlarged and increase the capacity. Therefore, we are understanding that factor endowments is the main problem for becoming trade partner in international relations. If you have the international relations between the countries, if you are close economy as in North Korea, you are only satisfying your production with 6 units of textile, let's say, China, we are going to replace with Korea. Of course, will then produce 7 unit aircraft, and the rest of the surplus, so-called the overproduction for the textile industry, cannot be absorbed. Either they are going to reduce their capacity or they stop producing. Not logic, not a rational application when you are concentrating to this international trade aspect, because we are expecting that international trade bilaterally increasing both parties economical utility and economical profit. And as you are observing on the post-trade equilibrium position, the bilateral trade increased also domestic consumption, because this is enlarging and increasing the capacity, because or reduced because of the capacity enlarged, because of the importable goods enlarged and increased, and the price is reduced and become more abundantly in the market, and the consumer prefer to buy more. And going from 7 to 13, this is then of course increasing your export, and similarly increased for the United States export or bilaterally export and import towards to these countries. That the factor endowment theory is very important, and of course very supporting for enlarging and creating international trade and international economical relations between the countries. From looking to this calculation, or to this of course concluding application, we are understanding that the relative price line becomes the equilibrium as a terms of trade, which we are always introducing and mentioning in our former lectures. And this is then of course supporting both nations for the post-trade consumption combination of aircraft, and the United States export textile will become at point C and increase and enlarge the economical aspect and of course economical capacity towards to the Chinese economy and towards to the Chinese market. And to achieve this point, and when we are subtracting this 15 from 9, then we are getting 6 units of aircraft is expected to be produced and exported to the United States. And of course for the China's export, 13 to 7 units is of a textile for the aircraft aircraft industry is expected to be absorbed by this industry. 6 aircraft and 6 units of textile will be then of course bilaterally traded between China and of course United States for increasing and enlarging their economical aspect as in GDP or growth rate. This is then of course have the international trade and international economical aspect affect and increase the economy and of course the productivity. Otherwise you are going to reduce your productivity, and you are going to restrict your production, because you are not able to absorb any more production. And when you have problem, because since demand is restricted or demand is not available, then you are not able to produce anymore. Then the supply side will expect will affect it, and will be of course reduced and become of course reduced. And this then of course recessionary period, and cause some crisis to the economy. Therefore international relations always creating win-win policy for both countries. And of course when we terms and the trade theory, the economies of scale based on this aspect, which means the produce goods in the greater quantity at lower average unit cost, will create more profit, because as much as you are increasing capacity, your profit rate is going to be reduced, but your capacity enlarge and increase your let's say profit as much as your capacity is enlarging. Because if you have 1 unit of product and you are going to sell it for $100, probably you will get some $50 for the profit. But if you are producing 1,000 units and producing it for $10 and you are selling it with $2 extra for the profit, then you are getting two. This is then how it is realized, economies of scale, because economies of scale is the reason for enlarging and increasing large scale production operation process in the international market. Due to this reason, we are of course enlarging and increasing our economical models towards this aspect, because when you have some restrictions on this direction, you are not able to enlarge and increase your economy on this direction. Of course, by doing the same for the other increasing returns, goods, all trading partners can take advantage of these economies of scale and through this specialization and exchange, and this will then create more spaces and more markets and more challenging power to the industries where they are having, of course, capacity to increase and enlarge their economies. And when we are, when we are looking to these economies of scale, we are creating here again a scenario which is between the United States auto firm and the Mexican auto firm are able to sell 100,000 vehicles in their respective countries, and also assume that identical cost conditions result in the same long-term average cost curve, which is for the two firms is illustrated. As you are observing here, the price and the auto is illustrated for these countries, and as you are observing, as much as you are increasing your capacity, because on the x-axis it is illustrated the amount of the auto which is produced, and on the vertical axis we are illustrating or indicating the price of this goods, or so-called the auto. And from point A to point B, you see the price is reduced from 10 to 8,000, and the amount of the auto increased from 100 to 200. When you are multiplying this, then you will see you will get more profit as much as you are increasing your capacity. And when you are reducing it to 7,500 as a price, then you are increasing it to more around 300, which is 275. And this is, of course, as much as you are reducing your price, the capacity, if you have enough, will be, and consumption capacity will be demand promoted and increased. And from this direction, the economies of scale is supposed to be very popular for increasing and enlarging the income. It is, of course, supposed that the rising income in the United States result in the demand for 200,000 auto, as I illustrated on the graphic, while the Mexican auto demand remain constant. The larger demand allow the United States firm to produce more auto and take the advantage of the economies of scale. And the firm's cost curve slides downward, as it is indicated. It is investor related because as much as you are reducing the price, of course, for the producer this is not good, but for the consumer it is good, because this is the welfare increase. And since the economy is concentrated to the welfare economics, you are able to enlarge the economy via this lower cost advantages and lower price, because lower price always increasing the capacity and increasing the demand towards to your direction. And it costs equally 8,000, as I have mentioned to you, but the amount of the product is shifted to 200, and this is then of course considerable market increase. And compared to the Mexican firma, the US firm can produce auto at a lower cost, and with the free trade, the United States will now export more auto to Mexico, as you are understanding from this capacity increase, because you are only reducing your capacity, but you are doubling your production capacity, while you are reducing your price towards to the economies of scale aspect. And of course, economies of scale, that's the providing is a provide additional cost incentive for the specialization in the production. And instead of manufacturing only a few units of each and every product that domestic consumers desire to produce or purchase, sorry, for purchasing, and of course for demanding, a country specialized in the manufacture of large amount of limited number of goods and trades for the remaining goods, and specialization in a few products allow a manufacturer to benefit from longer production runs, which lead to decreasing average cost. And as much as you become more specialized, this has meant you are going to increase your capacity and your production and your profit. Therefore, economies of scale become, of course, very popular, especially when we are concentrating to this international aspect. and an external economies of scale of from this aspect is also very important and popular. For a firm relate to the size of any entire industry within a particular geographic area you are concentrating. Let's think about the Mercedes, which is concentrated only the African countries, or the Mercedes, which is concentrating only the Asian countries or the South Asian countries. Therefore, this local geographical area, particularly when you are concentrating and of course increasing your capacity and promoting your production on this direction, you will become the leading position, because the average cost of this type of film will become decreased, and the output of this industry will be promoted and increased as much as you are reducing the price. This is realized in many franchising companies. For example, Nestle, Hewlett-Packard, Philips, BMW, these firma products where they are entering to the geography, to the sector or to the area where they are wishing to become dominant position, they are using the resources and they are becoming more cheaper and more advantageous because they have the capacity, they have the higher technology advantages and become dominant position. For example, in Nigeria, there is Milo. Some people coming from Nigeria, I think, and Milo is domestic and internal market product. If Nestle products, Mars, Cadbury, Snickers, decided to jump up, or Milka in Switzerland, the Nigerian market, they have the advantages because Milo probably using lower technologies and older technologies or method for producing. And of course, when you have the older technologies, you are having a lower capacity and performance and productivity. And from this direction, you are not able to compete with your international rival, which is joining as an FDI investment to your country. And when you have these advantages in your country as a rival, you are of course creating a considerable market in your area or in your FDI area or FPI area, where you are investing and expecting to become dominant position without any problem, because domestic market or internal producer are not very competitive and they are of course restricted and limited. And since you are coming as an FDI investor into the other region, you are also getting some exemptions such as tax exemptions, such as infrastructure aid, such as bureaucratic aid or herde exemption. These kind of facilities and of course subventions and subsidies will increase the international franchising companies capacity and challenging power in your country, and without any hesitate and without any problem, these FDI investment will become definitely the dominant position in your country. And while you are trying to put in front of the importable goods tariff and tax problem and of course the barriers, you are not able to realize this because you have the disadvantage which is supposed to be supporting and increasing your economy. But on the other side, if your economy is also collaborating with this FDI investment, you are also able to become the dominant position in the long run, because you will capture and you will catch up and you will cheat the technology and other facilities which is already brought to you from this FDI investment, foreign direct investment, and you will then also become more challenging power and become more dominant position if you are able to follow up your rivals' capacity and technology. Then this is, an of course, a very good example if we give the Singapore, which is totally developed with this FDI investment, because they are using their foreign direct investment or the capital, also called the resources, to transfer their economies and to increase their capacity. And Singapore is one of the most important FDI country where they develop sufficiently become the dominant position in the international market, either because they have these advantages and turn it to the profit for their local and domestic countries. And when we are looking to this product life cycle theory, which is also very important to understand the, of course, importance of this FDI or foreign relations or international economies or trade relations. This will also give some aspect to being able to understand the economy in this direction. Of course, product life cycle theory is suggested and focused on the role of technological innovation, which is already introduced to you with the FDI, because technological innovation is the key determinant for the trade partners in manufacturing industries, where the FDI, FPI, foreign portfolio investment, is realized. And this is, of course, Raymond Vernon's very popular theory and focus on the high-tech industry and high-tech production operation process. And during this cycle, the home country initially is an exporter, is supposed to become an exporter, and the loses its competitive advantages vis-a-vis its trading partners, and eventually may become an importer of the commodity. Therefore, product life cycle is also important, but it should be supported with the high tech and of course this technological advantages and of course the capital resource management as much as possible, because when we are looking to the stages of this product life cycle theory, we will understand why it is so. It is of course started with the manufacturer good as an introduced to the home market, and it becomes to the domestic industry as an exportable power, and then going to be the exportable products or the foreign production with their foreign partners towards the other industry, lose their competitive advantages as much as the import competition becomes. This is then of course how it is going to be realized with the know-how and of course the high-tech production operation process in the international market. If your technology and innovation is not good, and you are of course going to be cheated with these domestic markets, as in Singapore realized, you are not going to become of course dominant position in a long run. Therefore, from this direction, we have to concentrate the governmental regulation policies and the, of course, application in the direction of the comparative advantages, because most of the governments supporting FDI investment because they are supposing capital is coming to our country, but on the other side of this aspect, this investment where it is coming to your country, sometimes it is damaging your infant industries and your production operation process, and this is then of course problem for the economy. As I mentioned to you, comparative advantages must be a guideline for the international relations, because if you have infant industry for 30 years, this should be stopped. Government shouldn't be supporting or preventing or protecting these industries because they are not developing sufficiently. Probably they are very costly, they are not competitive, they are not having these lower relative cost advantages, or they don't have the sufficient abundant factor in their country. And this kind of aspect should be carefully realized and observed when the government regulations supporting and promoting this kind of let's say investment or of course production in the country, either it is foreign or is domestic, should be questionable and should be carefully treated. And as I said to you, government regulations sometimes may improve the well-being of the public, and they can result in a higher cost for domestic firms, because as I mentioned to you, if the government regulation is not supporting sufficiently this domestic market, or is supporting much for the FDI investment, these things are also causing too much to the economy. Either they are promoting and increasing and enlarging the economical aspect and economical development, or they, of course, put the barriers or stop the economy from the international relations, and of course, this is the problem. Therefore, governmental regulations and of course policies and all subventions, subsidies, and interventions should be carefully treated. When we are looking again to this graphic that I'm going to introduce to you here, you are observing there is of course the trade effects of pollution regulations imposed on the production process, which is, of course, again, the government here, the main or dominant parameter or dominant player in the economy. Assume a world of two steel producers such as South Korea and United States is in the international relations, and the supply and demand schedule of South Korea and the, of course, United States indicated on the graphic as you are observing here as S South Korea and D for the DSK for this South Korea supply and demand, and for the United States again demand for the United States illustrated and supply for the United States illustrated, and there is of course another line, supply line, which is result of this pollution or the environmental protection applied. When we are looking to this regulation or this scenario, we are understanding that in the absence of trade, South Korea producers selling 5 tons of steel at 400 per ton, whilst 2,000 of steel are sold in the United States at 600 per ton, which is expensive. And South Korea thus enjoys the comparative advantages in steel production with free trade, and South Korea move towards greater specialization in steel production, and the United States produces less steel because, as I mentioned to you, here, of course, as I mentioned here, South Korea enjoy the comparative advantages in the steel production. And this is because coming from this given numbers on this scenario. It is supposed that the imposition of the government regulations for clean energy or clean environment, workplaces safely produced and of course enlarge and increase the welfare on the United States producers, steel companies so-called, leads to higher cost and a decrease in the market supply. The imposition detracts from the competitiveness of the United States steel companies and reduces their share of the United States steel market. As you are observing, results of this environmental production or protection, agents which is imposed as an sanction or as a preventive regulation for pollution, domestic steel producers is going to be reduced in the United States, and meeting these regulations add to the production cost. It should be because it is costly. For example, if there is a so-called dirty air or pollution in the air, it should be regulated. It should be prevented with some sanitary measures for preventing this pollution in the market. And if it is going to be demanded from the increase the cost of the production, because sanctions or interventions to this pollution dependent to the producers, and this will then of course cause some cost to the producers and reducing the supply from C on the left, on the right side, we are illustrating the United States, from S, so-called S United States 0, which was the production capacity of steel industry, and move towards to the backward towards to the left side and increase or so-called decrease, because it is increasing, but it is increasing only the cost but decreasing the production. As you are observing, moving to this point D, where it is shifted from 500 to 600, and this is then of course problem for the economy, because at the end of the day this application causes to the United States as a deficit and enlarge from 14 to 10 to 4 and to 12 to 4 to 8, and the South Korea surpluses become enlarged exportable goods towards to the United States increase from 7 to 3, as you are observing there, to 4 units will be enlarged, and 9 to 1 is going to be 8 because of this sanitary or environmental preventive measure shifted the price in the United States higher level and reduced the production, and against to this South Korea this increase on the prices, because they will then profit from this enlargement of this capacity, because increasing the prices in the production reduces the capacity in the production, and of course the scarcity in the economy is realized between 4 and 12, and this is then the indication that the economy is exercising problem, because before when it was 500 the dollar for the steel production, it was the scarcity of the economy between 10 to 14, and it is of course after this application of the pollution or regulation for the pollution, it is reduced from 40 12, and it is then of course 8 unit scarcity in the economy is expected, which is doubling the let's say importable goods capacity, because between D dash and A dash is the amount of the importable goods illustrated here, and therefore it should be covered with the importable goods. And here, as I mentioned to you, South Korea enjoying this market access towards to the United States, because governments without any knowledge probably, or without any study, they are applying this preventive measure for the pollution, but on the other side damaging their domestic market, because their existing market already produced 10 units or 10,000 or 10 tons of steel per year or per month, but after this application it is reduced to 4, and this is because of the governmental regulation. And if this is coming from the government, this is of course bad, because you can't do anything, you cannot do anything against this application. If this regulation is in the act, is put into the circulation, this will then cause too much to the economy. After having this outlook for the aspect to the internal market and of course international market, we are understanding, beside of this international trade relations, we are also questioning the transportation cost for the comparative advantages, because sometimes transportation cost is included to the economy or to the producers production operation process, or to the exportable goods, or to the imported goods, but this is of course questionable or must be questioned, because transportation costs sometimes causing also too much to the economy, sometimes it is causing too much and reducing the effect of the economy. The principle of comparative advantages, as I mentioned to you, includes the cost of moving goods from one nation to another, and transportation costs refer to the cost of moving goods, including freight charges, packaging, handling, expense, and insurance premiums. These are all included as a transportation cost towards to the other nations when you are exporting. And these costs are an obstacle to the trade and impede the realization of the gains from the trade liberalization, but also in the internal market, when you are applying this transportation cost, it is market. Let's see how it is going to be realized. Simply put the differences across countries in a transportation cost and source of comparative advantages affect the volume and composition of the trade. Let's see this graphic that we have already illustrated here. Before the transportation, which we are not including it, which you call it no transportation cost, is added, and then of course with transportation we are going to analyze and see how it is going to affect and change the economy. As you are observing here, in the absence of the transportation cost, free trade results in the equalization of the price of the trade goods as well as the resource prices in the trading nations. With the introduction of the transportation cost, the low cost exporting nation produces less and they consume more and they export less. The higher cost importing nation produce more and consume less and they import less. The degree of specialization in production between the two countries or two nations decreases, and of course results of this lower cost advantages of this Ricardo is not realized here. As you are observing here, without transportation costs, as you are observing here, the production capacity is sufficiently realized and exportable goods is realized between for the United States between 2 to 6, and importable goods realized between 2 to 6 again for the Canada. Bilaterally, the international trade relations realize without transportation costs, because transportation costs transportation cost is of course increasing the price of the product. And let's suppose, as I mentioned to you here, the trading nations increasing the, of course, exportable goods prices because of the transportation costs when they are including it into the economy. As it is illustrated here, before it was 7 unit, and after it is included, it is shifted, you see here, to 8. And on the other side, when you are observing, since this transportation cost, which is not included, it is of course stay in the unit 4. There is a surplus for the United States, as it is mentioned, but it is reduced from 3 to 5, which it was 2 to 6. And on the other side, when we are looking to the Canada, which it was 2 to 6, it is reduced to 3 to 5 for importable goods. Therefore, transportation cost is somehow putting the barrier and reducing the amount of the goods which is going to be exported and imported between the countries. As I mentioned to you once again, the autarky, United States has the comparative advantages in auto production. The United States and the Canada equilibrium locations are at point E and F respectively. As I mentioned in the graphic, there is no problem here. And with 4 points, they have the, of course, equilibrium for the bilaterally, Canada and United States. And when we are looking to the absence of trade, where the United States auto price is 4 and the lower than the Canada, which it was 8, then there is, of course, as you are observing here, sufficient spaces for exporting the goods from Canada, from United States to Canada. And when we are looking to this without transportation, how it is going to be affecting and changing the economy between the countries, the United States will move towards in auto production, whereas Canada will produce fewer autos. And under this increasing cost conditions, the United States cost and price level rises and Canada's price falls. And the basis for further growth of trade is eliminated. And when the two countries' prices are equal at 0.6 or 6,000 for each auto, they have the, of course, bilateral trade relations without any problem. As I mentioned to you, this is, of course, the problem of the economy, because transportation costs is causing too much to the economy. When we are looking again, this transportation cost, which is increasing and enlarging the, of course, cost for the economy, it is supposed here that 2,000 units from the United States to Canada is imposed as a cost of transporting. And this is then, of course, the United States will find it advantageous to produce autos and export them to Canada until its relative price advantage is eliminated. But when transportation costs are included, export price is, of course, shifted, and domestic production cost plus the transportation cost is becoming somehow costly. And this aspect, when we are looking to the economical aspect and, of course, impact, equalization occurs when the United States auto price rises to 5,000 and Canada's auto prices fall to 7,000. Since it is observed in this example given, the differences between them is then, of course, 2,000 per unit transportation cost. And as you are observing, this transportation cost is somehow a barrier to the trade. Compare with free trade, with transportation costs, when it is included, the higher cost importing country will produce more and consume less, which should be vice versa, opposite, isn't it? Because it is expected that lower cost country must become comparative advantages in economy, and the lower cost exporting country, United States, now will produce less because of this transportation cost and consume more and export. This is not acceptable, for the transportation cost causes unfair trade and profit for higher cost producer country. As you are observing here, this is the reason why franchising companies remove this transportation costs from their agenda. And when you are observing, they are preferring to invest to these countries. As I mentioned to you, Mercedes goes to Africa, goes to Asia or Middle East countries, and they are trying to become dominant position because transportation costs creating hindrance and causing barrier to the trade and reducing your capacity, and you are not able to dominate into the market since you are becoming dominant position because of your lower relative cost advantages. Due to this reason, free trade in the absence of transportation cost is more preferable for lower cost producers and exporters, especially for the franchising large scale producers, which is currently you are observing in many countries the price transparency and equity in everywhere. You buy Mercedes for $50,000 or 50 or $60,000, some C class or some other Hewlett Packard, you will see in internet 500, 300, 600, depending to the quality and of course properties. The standard and of course the price transparency become more equal and of course similar because transportation costs reducing the capacity and of course reducing the economy in this direction. Transportation cost and comparative advantages, as I mentioned to you, is of course the reason for becoming trade partner if you don't consider it, and is the reason for excluding yourself from the market. Therefore, the transportation costs have the implications for the factor price equalization theory, which is presented before to you. And factor price equalization theorem is also suggested that producer with prices which is going to be dominated or becomes a position because of their factor abundancy is the reason to become a trade partner. Of course, the price of the factors, capital and labor, will also support and assume to become equalized in this direction, which is of course very popular and very supporting explanation for this transportation cost. Therefore, factor price equalization theorem is also very important to analyze on this direction where the transportation cost is not considered as a price increase in the international market. The transportation cost and the advantages of the comparative market is also very important because it is suggests that the free trade tends to equalize product price and factor price so that the workers earn the same wages rate. Because of this, probably as you are observing, most of the wage or the minimum wage almost in all countries similar. All units of capital earn the same interest income in both nations, and in many OECD countries, when you are observing and watching or controlling, you will see the figures when you see and observe these figures or the this is the reason why they have these similarities in many countries where they are equalizing their factor price, and they are equalizing their of course wages, their salaries, their product prices, because transportation costs creating hindrance and causing some market reduction, and of course causing some capacity reduction in the international market. And this is of course in currently many countries trying to equalize their wages, their capacity, even if the exchange rate is different, causing some disparities between the countries. There is no problem. There is no reason to equalize the earning wages or salaries in every country. When you are transferring, for example, if you go to Nigeria and ask this naira how much is the minimum wage, and transfer it or calculate it and exchange rate to dollar or to the to the European Union euro, you will get it around 400. I may ask somebody, you will see around 400 or 500. This is up and down moving because in every country, even if it is naira or Turkish lira or som or other currency is subjected, every time the minimum wages is somehow become equalized because wages and the purchasing power parity is becoming equally distributed between these nations, between the international market, because they are trying to become competitive and they are trying to become more challenging power because of their capacity, not because of their wages, not because of their salaries, not because of their prices, because of their capacity. since the prices become equally distributed, and this is then the reason why the international trade becomes internationally acceptable. Transportation costs, of course, in our example, auto workers earning more than South Korean workers, as I said. And one possible reason for this differential is the transportation cost paid to the US workers. By making lower cost South Korean autos more expensive for the United States, consumers' transportation costs reduce, and the volume of the auto shipped from South Korea to the United States will then, of course, affect it. Therefore, transportation cost is, and of course, should be excluded in the international relations or international trade, because it is not acceptable, let's say, factor. Of course, transportation and stop the process of commodity and factor price equalization before it is complete. And in other words, the price of the US auto and the wages of the United States auto workers do not fall and to the level of those in the South Korea, but transportation costs, of course, increasing the amount of the money which is going to be added to the market price, so-called the consumer price, and the transportation cost does provide some relief to the cost for the domestic workers, because it is then increasing. Because if you are including the transportation cost, then on the other side, wages are expected to be reduced, and therefore either you are going to add the transportation cost or you reduce the wages, because you are trying to become equally or similar to the international market price competition for the price for the challenging power. Due to this reason, it is not accepted. I will stop this here. I have one more chapter. I don't know, do we have to stop here, or next lecture I will do this? Because I have some calculation for you. Do you want me to do this? Or let it after the exam? Is that okay?
Okay, so is this one part of the exam?
Please,
What we are doing?
Okay, then I will add it to the exam, because we have some calculation. It is better to start fresh than we do it with the better time. Okay. If you have any question, you
What
ask.
we did today, part of the exam.
final exam, sir, for the final exam.
Final exam, as I said, I'm going to concentrate to the theories, some theories that I have given to you. Interpretation of the theories will be given to you, not too much. I don't ask too difficult, but you have to learn the aspect of this. You understand? It is better that it is expected that you are understanding the theoretical aspect of this theories that I introduced to you. This is the, of course, probably the expected way to do the exam. You understand? Because I don't wanna do too much for the exam, because we are doing mostly the theory up to today, and then after then I will do it after the midterm exam. I will do some calculations, which we have mostly calculation probably, because I have the customs union theory next lecture together with some calculations with Olin, and then we go together. Okay. If you don't have any
Yes,
question, then I stop here.
Prof.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're
Prof.
welcome. Yes, please. Yes.
What we are doing today, is it going to be part of the exam?
Tell me. I don't understand.
What we did today, is it going to be part of the exam?
It is related actually, but it is not difficult. I mean, you don't have to worry about it. You will. I mean, transportation costs. I don't ask graphic. You know, in the online exams, I always put test questions, because I try to put some time in some exams calculations. I mean, without multiple choice, and these are not able to do it correctly, because you are answering comprehensively, and this is not accepting, because system not accepting your answer, and then creating problem. Then I prefer to put all multiple choice, even if it is calculation. You will always have the exam answers. Okay, you have the options to answer it. You understand? Because multiple choice is the only option, because other options cannot be answered easily from you. Therefore, I prefer to cancel this from okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Okay, sir.
please.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome. See you then next week. Okay, to the exam.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
please.
I have a question.
Yes, Hala.
Are the slides okay
I'm
or
listening.
enough for the exam?
No, you should study the book a little bit. You should read the chapters. Only the slides is not, because I am only usually I am speaking too much and the slide is only a few sentences. You should study the theory in the book also, because only
Okay,
the
doctor.
slide is poor,
So what
isn't it? It's
chapter
not
did you study the textbook?
The
chapters.
three
Yes.
first
Textbook.
I can tell you.
chapters.
Is it, sir?
I'm telling you.
Okay.
You study chapter until chapter 4, okay? Until chapter 4, where the tariff is finished, okay? Not tariff
Okay,
is not
chapter 1,
included.
2, 3, and 4.
No, tariff is not included. I didn't do tariff. Tariff I will do next week.
Chapter
After the
1.
next week.
Chapter
Chapter
1.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, not 4.
Okay, 1, 2,
One,
3.
You
two,
Okay.
three.
study Dominic Salvatore, yes. Dominic Salvatore and global economics, Carbach, okay?
Okay.
Carbach, Robert Carbach's economics, global economics, and the
Please, who has
Dominic
the soft copy of the
Salvatore.
textbook?
Tell me, what was it?
Sir, please,
Please.
can I see the book? Can you?
Yes, this is
Can,
Carbach's book. This is Carbach's global economics. Carbach, global economics. There is in the library, but I think it is closed. This is copy of it. I have my original, but I brought too much inside
okay,
because
do you have the soft copy?
The soft copy?
yes, there is online. I can send it to you.
Yeah,
Please,
no,
sir.
WhatsApp.
Okay, I will.
WhatsApp group, please.
No, I will send to email.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Or I will try to send to WhatsApp if I can. Okay, because it is large. I will
Yes.
copy it and send it to you. Okay, if I
WhatsApp, yes, so
can.
that we all have it.
Or I will send somebody email. Whose email shall I have to send? And you will do it. You will distribute it. I
Okay,
will
no
send to
problem.
Right.
Momat.
Thank you, sir.
Shall I have to send to Momat? I will send to Momat, and the Momat gives you. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Doctor, which
Okay,
chapter?
Momat.
Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem.
This is look 13 edition. 13.
Okay,
If you send me, I will send it to them instantly.
Huh?
If you send me, I will send it to them instantly.
I have
Okay.
15.
You have it.
Is
Okay.
it
Oh, huh? Hey.
I question 15. Is it
There is
okay?
no problem. 15 or 13, no problem. It's okay. Everything inside.
But send us, Prof,
I'll
the
send
book
it
that you
in
have. Hala,
Please,
But
Prof. Please,
Hala,
Prof. Send us.
Hala,
Please, Hala, please.
if
Wait.
Allah
Hala,
hasn't,
Hala, wait. Hala, let
Allah
us get
can.
the one that he has, please.
No, please, Prof.
I
Send us
sent
your own.
2 books.
Okay, Dominic Salvatore. Okay, you can study either this or Carbach. No problem. Both is accepted. Okay.
Yes,
I'm
Prof, send
sending
us
you
the
the
one that you have.
Carbach.
Yes.
Okay, I will send you. Okay.
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 That's good.
Thank you.
Perfect, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
Prof.
you. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
How
Bye bye.
Bye-bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye bye.